of time and space. Everywhere and anywhere, every star that ever was. Where do you want to start?
We've escaped from a society secretly controlled by giant crabs, and now we're going somewhere truly horrifying. Gatwick Airport. I'm Ian.
And I'm Mark, and let's get up to speed with where we are so far in the story. When the TARDIS lands at Gatwick Airport, the Doctor is drawn into a web of intrigue and deception. To add to his troubles, Polly mysteriously vanishes. Or does she? The girl at the Chameleon Tours desk looks like Polly and even sounds like her. But she claims she comes from Zurich. Who is she really? Who is behind these abductions? And for what sinister purpose? Soon the Doctor and Jamie must face a desperate group of faceless aliens, the deadly Chameleons. And we'll be back with our special guest after this.
This seems to be the way, Jamie. Excuse me. We're looking for someone in authority.
Just a moment, sir. All in good time. Thank you, madam. Now, sir, your passport, please.
I've got no time for that. We want to see someone in authority.
I am in authority. Your passport, please.
You don't understand. We have something important to report.
Yes, sir. When you found your passport. The next one, please.
What's a passport, Doctor? Some sort of official mumbo-jumbo. Look, we've just discovered a dead body out there. Did you hear me?
Well, sir, if I were you, I'd inform the police.
Then please tell me where we can find them.
There's probably a policeman in the main concourse.
And where is that?
Through this door and turn to your left.
Well, thank you very much. Come on, Jamie.
May I see your passport, sir?
We neither of us have passports. Now, does that satisfy you?
I think you must be mistaken, sir. You couldn't have got on the aircraft without passport.
What aircraft?
The one you arrived on, sir.
We didn't arrive on an aircraft.
Now, look here, sir. This joke's gone far enough. You know and I know that you must have arrived here on the last inbound flight, which was flight number 729 from Madrid.
About TARDIS. Oh,
What's that?
it's the way we got here.
You gentlemen wouldn't know anything about a police box, would you?
That's just what I'm saying.
I really think that our mode of conveyance is irrelevant. The important thing is that we've discovered a dead body out there, and we want to report it to someone in authority.
I think you'll have plenty of opportunity to see someone in authority.
Well, thank you.
Will you take a seat, please, over
Thank
there?
you very much.
Give me the commandant, please. Hello, sir. Jenkins here, immigration desk number 5. I think I've got 2 of your suspects here.
And welcome back. And this episode we are joined by the wonderful Philip Edney. Hello, Philip.
Hello, how are you going, Mark?
I'm doing very well, thank you very much.
Great.
It's an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, it's great to be here. I've enjoyed your pod for a long time, and Ian, nice to have you talk to you too.
You too, sir.
We've already had Dwayne, so we figured we'd better complete the set and
I was
you along for an episode.
I was feeling very jealous, and we down here in Australia we get a bit very competitive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I had noticed that. But we thought we'd save you for an interesting story to talk about. Before we get onto any of that, it's time for a bit of probing.
Oh,
Yes, Philip, I'm afraid it is time, as is traditional at the top of the show, for you to face the Mind Probe.
no, not the Mind Probe.
No, not the Mind Probe.
Yes. The Mind
that is some quality. That's RADA.
I got a real palpable sense of fear and dread
Yeah.
there, and I like that.
Yeah, there was no acting involved. to be
No,
fair.
no. Right, let's read out my little spiel here. Philip, satisfy the mind probe, and you will be returned to your customary time and place. But fail in your quest, and my hysterical henchman, Castellan Cockram here, will toss you vigorously into the time lash. His palms are itching.
They really are. But I must get some cream for that.
Yes, you should. We have but 4 questions for you today, all on the subject of faces. So if you're ready, I will begin. Okay.
Okay.
Question 1. Who directed the 1997 Nick Cage and John Travolta thriller Face Off?
Okay, I have seen it. Is it someone famous? Oh dear.
It's a Hollywood director. I mean, you know.
It is a Hollywood director. I was trying to work out whether someone was actually John Travolta himself. No, I'm in trouble. I've got no idea.
No, neither had I. It was apparently John Woo.
Yeah.
Well, I'm surprised I didn't get that one. Oh dear.
Yes. Well, never mind. It's all to play for. Question
Off to a flying
2.
start.
Don't worry. It's all good. Question 2. In what year was Facebook founded?
Oh dear. I'm going to just guess. I've even seen the movie. 2000. I think it was 2000 still. 2004.
You are correct. How amazing!
Hey.
Oh, wow.
That's great.
Impressive.
Fantastic.
I was just thinking they haven't had 20 years yet, but it must be coming close.
Yeah.
Phew.
It went sort of public in 2006, but 2004 it was founded. Question 3. In 1936, 5 climbers died attempting to climb the north face of which Swiss mountain?
Oh, come on. Why would I know Swiss mountains in Australia? Like, you asked me if it was Kosciuszko in Australia, that's our highest mountain. I could do that one, but I don't think you could die climbing Kosciuszko. You wouldn't even consider that a mountain. I think any mountain you can catch a chairlift almost to the top to doesn't count, does it?
Not
really.
Or I'd go climbing with my wife a lot more.
So, does it say Swiss mountain?
Swiss mountain.
I cannot. Sorry, I can't even name a Swiss mountain. I was hoping it to be Everest or K2 or. No, go on. Which Swiss mountain was it?
It was the Eiger.
Oh wow! I never heard of it.
No, I'm sure there's a classic sitcom that talks about the north face of the Eiger, which is what triggered it in my mind. Anyway,
okay.
If you get the next question right, you've kind of drawn, and we'll call that a win because we're very generous and it's very early for you, and no one wants to start the day with failure and shame. So, final question, number 4: which role links Tommy Lee Jones, Aaron Eckhart, and William Shatner?
What role? Okay, so would it be Two-Face?
It is Two-Face. I'm calling that a win. 2 out of 4 is a win in my book.
Yeah.
Well done, sir.
Yeah. Well done.
Oh, good. Good enough to start the day with abject failure. That's marvellous.
It does mean Mark has to go to bed empty-handed, but you know.
Yeah.
He can find something for his hands, no doubt.
I'm sure. He's got a little faceless one of his own.
There's a lovely image for the listeners. So anyway, Philip, it's all downhill from here on.
Oh, good. That's exciting to know.
The Faceless Ones. What's your relationship with this story, Philip? Have you read the Target book? Or is it something you've experienced in audio? Because you are an audiophile.
I am. I've experienced this in every form that you can. So my earliest experience would be round at someone's house where we had a 28th copy generation of episode 1, episode 3, and watching the snowstorm of the Faceless One. So that would be the first experience, which would have been early 90s, I guess. So that'd be my earliest memory of it. I guess my clearest one would be on audio. So, and particularly the BBC version with Fraser Hines doing the narration. But I would have heard that, and then the VHS would have come out very soon, which was The Reign of Terror, which had the 2 episodes on, which you could actually see the people at this time. That was pretty exciting. And then within a year or two, the DVD Lost in Time came out, with episode 1 and 3 as
Yes.
well. So I think within a few years, I would have experienced all those 3 versions. Mm-hmm. So Patrick Troughton is probably he is my favourite Doctor. So this is one of the ones that I've watched several times.
Philip, this will come as a massive surprise to you, but I don't think that makes you an incredible outlier.
No,
in being Patrick being your favourite.
Oh, he's amazing. And when I first started getting into Doctor Who, in Australia we had it showed every single night, and so 6 o'clock or 6:30 every
all right.
every
I
night.
need to brag about it. Jeez.
And so we were in rotation. But and the first
Lucky ducks.
I know. So the first episodes I was watching was Pyramids of Mars. And I was in hospital because I had my appendix out, and the kid next to me. There's only one TV in the children's ward, so that's how I got caught up with it. But the very first book I bought was a couple of weeks later. Was The Web of Fear, and so from then on I was just second doctor. It confused me a bit trying to work out why the picture of the person on the book wasn't the guy with all the hair and the scarf.
Yeah, I think I had a similar thing with Death to the Daleks, and they described him as having this shock of white hair. I'm thinking, hang on, that doesn't sound like Tom Baker. So yeah, I think that's quite a common one.
When we got to the end of the Talons of Weng Chiang, it always went back to Spirit from Space. And so I could never quite work out why the Doctor regenerated that way. That took me a long time to work out as well.
Ian, I think I already know the answer to this, but let's just play along for fun.
So,
what's your first experience of this story?
So I did not get the Target book when I was a nipper. I had not.
What a surprise!
I had not seen it. I watched episode 1 and 3 this morning, but you will be glad to know. Yesterday, I also listened to the so-called BBC audiobook read by Annika Wills.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, who does a very good Troughton, but it is nonetheless a very strange product.
Are you sure it's Annika Wills and not someone trying to be Annika Wills?
Well, now you've said that, I'm wondering if it was her chameleon duplicate.
No, I think
it is Annika Wills.
I do think there is an Annika Wills version.
There is.
Well, yeah.
So what they did, the audio, the reading was pretty straightforward, but even though it was an official BBC audiobook, it didn't have the Doctor Who music. They got some new music they'd obviously made specially instead. And you think, well, if it...
So was she reading the novelisation, or was it the audio?
It was the novelisation. Yeah. So the Doctor's doing a lot of business with his sonic screwdriver, which is wrong.
Oh.
And and even though it was a BBC recording, they didn't give this other department of the BBC permission to use the Doctor Who themes. That was bizarre.
No,
that sounds about right.
They never use the Doctor Who themes on the audiobooks.
No.
It's too expensive. It's too expensive.
Oh.
Because they've got to pay for it, and they just won't pay for it.
So one guy at one end of BBC Towers has got to pay another guy at the other end of BBC Towers to use the music, which is their property, on their recording of something they're all going to make money out of.
Yeah.
BBC is like a giant onion with all these millions of layers, and they all, although they're one gestalt thing, they all operate independently. So, yes, I'm sure, especially going back to when this was made, it was probably even worse because you probably had, the unions still had a bit of clout back then, so it would have been even more segregated.
I was going to say, the music isn't the BBC property. The music is the property of the composer.
Good.
So the composer has to be paid.
So
he's a state now.
They must be able to live off that, surely. The amount of stuff that gets released with that bit of music in it.
Oh yeah, they would make a fortune, and that's part of the reason why BBC has a cut down version, because every time they use it, they've got to pay for it. Which is why at the end of this, they do a very short cut down version because they have to pay less for those cut down versions, and there's a lot of economics in all of this.
See, it makes me wish that my dad had written the theme tune for a very long-running television programme, but he didn't. He worked for British Telecom.
Oh.
Yeah, well, sadly, no money there.
Well, we don't even get money when anyone uses the phone. It's terrible.
He should have worked for one of these energy companies or a water company. He would have been absolutely rolling in it.
Yeah, or a sewage company.
Don't roll in that.
I'm sure this will still be highly topical by the time this episode comes out.
Oh, I think Britain will be completely fixed.
One way or another. Anyway, let's get out of that whole cesspit. Is it fair to say that the writers of this particular story may possibly have, at some point in the past, watched Invasion of the Body Snatchers? Or am I being unnecessarily mean here?
If they had watched it, I'm not sure they paid a lot of attention to it.
But there are a few similarities there.
There are, but I think aliens taking over humans' bodies has been a bit of a staple for a long time. But
it has,
but yeah, I mean,
especially in Doctor Who.
Yeah, especially Doctor Who. So I mean, that would have been one of the big ones, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
It's nice to have a contemporary story again. I think we really enjoyed the War Machines because you had this little snapshot of swinging 60s London, and in fact you get the same day.
Yeah, it's only the second.
It's mentioned
the second time in 4 years that the show has gone to contemporary London or to contemporary times.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's the same day, and then of course they were doing the next story as well, and still the same day.
Yeah.
So this must be one of those nexus points in history where the Doctor just keeps coming back to.
There must have been a rift that opened over London and the southeast during that one day that let everything happen.
Yes, I watched the animation for the first time for this in preparation.
Oh yeah.
And there's a
What did you make of it?
it's not too bad. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the animations particularly.
They're a bit variable.
They are, and not of animation per se. Anyway, I've not been an animation person or anime or any of that stuff. But there's on one of the newspapers. There's a little article about war machines being defeated. One of the people.
There's lots of nice little Easter eggs.
Yeah, so that was a lovely touch. So mine, I'm not sure they would have been defeated by this date, but anyhow, pretty close to it.
I think isn't there a wanted poster with Roger Delgado's face on it at some point?
There is, and a few other people as well. I noticed along the way.
Yeah.
The animators have had fun with this.
Yeah, it's nice little touches. Ian, have you seen any of the animation, even like the trailers or anything?
No, I haven't. But having enjoyed the Macroterror so much, I probably will as soon as it's available.
It's been out for 2 years.
Yeah, it's not. So in the US, it's not on BritBox. You can't buy it. It's really weird. It's a lot harder to get hold of Troughton.
Almost like they don't want you to see it.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a pain, but never mind. Yeah, I think as animations go, I like the style. I think it's more sort of going back to the Cosgrove Hall style they had for the Invasion, which was the first animated one to come out. More of it in that sort of the look of it. But I don't suppose you've got quite the same sort of like a tent pole kind of alien to sort of hang it on. So you've got, in some of the really good ones, you've got Cybermen, you've got Daleks or whatever, and as good as the chameleons are in this, and it's not quite such a draw, I suppose, for your casual person who's interested in watching an old Doctor Who.
If I had £20 to spend and I had a choice of Daleks or Donald Pickering, I would always plump for the Daleks.
Pickering. Oh. I would imagine the model work was pretty good in this. When you see the CGI plane that becomes the spaceship, I can imagine that being very sort of Thunderbirds-esque. Or maybe the animation does it all sorts of favours and it looked like a toy plane on a piece of wire.
Yeah, it's always hard to tell, isn't it? The company that actually made all the model work, the Shawcraft, got fired after this show because of how badly they produced things and how long it took and repairing things. So this was actually Shawcraft, which has been doing all the special effects and all their model work up until this point in the show, got finally sacked after this because their work wasn't good enough. Which makes you think that there was a lot of staff that would have lost their jobs over that.
Yeah, that's quite sad, really.
Yeah.
It's a huge part of the story, isn't it, of the beginning. So that's the end of another era.
Yes.
Ben and Polly and Jamie, how do they rate for you? Are they a favourite team of yours?
It's so hard to tell when we have so few episodes and no complete stories with the three of them together. I'd always been fairly unimpressed by Ben and Polly when I was younger. I've actually come to appreciate as I've got older and seeing the episodes that we have. that actually there's a lot more subtlety in their performances than I realised. I do actually think Michael Craze was a far better actor than we realised, and there's actually a lot of subtlety that he does, and I think McRae in particular, he manages to show that.
Yes.
But it was clear that once Jamie came along, the writers really had no interest in Ben, and Polly was such a movable feast in terms of what the writers did to her. So even in this, she's having to be hugged and consoled by Jamie in that first episode, and you sort of think, when other times when she's strong and things, you sort of think, well, why did that happen?
Yeah, she started off very plucky, didn't she?
She did, and that's very very much what you wanted to see. It was weird. It was good to have these contemporary people. I mean, we hadn't had this since Ian and Barbara in terms of our point of view. You sort of want a connection with our time, and that's why when the sister shows come back, we've always had a modern companion to be our eyes on society, and that's what Ben and Polly was. Of course, once Ben and Polly went, it's going to be years again before we have a companion that's actually got our point of view. So you do lose that. I mean, I guess they're okay. I mean, Annika, I haven't met Annika, and she's amazing and slightly crazy. And she was telling.
I've seen her at a couple of conventions, and she speaks really well, and I think she's quite a good ambassador for the show. She's not backwards in coming forwards about some of the things she wasn't so keen on either.
Yeah.
But we won't go into that side so much. But yeah, she's just comes across as a really bubbly, nice person.
She is. I mean, I was having a conversation with her about when she was an ancient Roman in a previous life, and you go, "Oh, okay. What was ancient Rome like?" And she can tell you what ancient Rome was like because she's got lots of memories of when she was living in ancient Rome. You go, "Oh, okay."
I think she lives down in my part of the world now these days.
Right.
She's been to a couple of local conventions, and I got a feeling she didn't have to travel that far to get here. But yeah, she's just comes across as a really nice person. I think I've seen her say a few times in interviews and things that she really felt that Michael Craze was really going to go on and become this big star after leaving Doctor Who, but it never really materialised for him, which is a bit of a shame.
I suspect he was too short.
I think you're probably right. Yeah.
Seriously, I mean, big movie star actors have to be taller than he was.
It seems weird now in the days. I mean, you got like someone like Tom Cruise who commands multi-million budgets, and he's not super tall himself.
No, but they put him on boxes when he's next to co-stars, or they put co-star. No, they do. Or he wears platform shoes, or they do.
Or they stand in
the ditch. They do all that stuff with him, so that he doesn't come across as short as he is. So someone like Daniel Radcliffe, great actor, but I mean, he'll never have to worry about working because of the money he makes out of Harry Potter.
Well, no.
But once again, I think in terms of being able to hit that big movie star status, so he's content now just to do the wacky roles and anything he wants to do, but he's never going to be that big hero because he's not tall enough. Yeah. We're a height of society, we are.
Clearly. So what happened to Michael Craze after Doctor Who then? I mean, it's appropriate given that this is his last story, but I don't think I ever saw him in anything. And he died quite young, didn't he? He did. He went on to make a couple of films, some horror films, but he really didn't go into much. He ended up managing and owning a pub, and in the end, I think it was about 98 or so, he had a fall. He fell down some steps, which brought on a heart attack, and he died. Oh no! Oh God! So it was a pretty tragic end, and he was. Yeah, very talented and should have gone on to great things and sadly never did.
But he'll always be remembered for this, if nothing else.
Yes, definitely. The power of Doctor Who.
Yes. And as far as the wider guest cast, I think this is a pretty strong one, really, when you look at some of the names that are involved.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the strongest casts we get, and so many come back in lots of places. Do you want me to talk about something, or you want to talk about them?
Yeah, why not?
I mean, just in terms of, I made a bit of a list of who was here in terms of who came back. So Pauline Collins, who of course will go on to great fame and acclamation, came back to Doctor Who as Queen Victoria in Tooth and Claw.
Yes.
Though we know her death.
Wasn't she initially lined up, and they were hoping that she was going to be the next companion, and then it didn't happen? That's right. She was asked. She was certainly asked on several occasions, and basically begged by both the producer and
Fraser, who worked really well with her.
I'm sure he did. Yeah.
You got a bit of a kiss in there. Well done, Fraser. So Fraser was very keen for her to continue, and she was written as an option. It was a bit like what they did with Dragonfire and Bannerman, where they sort of lined up two possibilities to go on, and then pick what they liked. So they were doing the same episode with this and Evil the Daleks. Though certainly wanted Pauline Collins, and with the career she ended up having, she would have been amazing. But she wasn't interested. She wanted to just be a character actress and wasn't interested at that stage of the series. But she would have been amazing. Very Liverpoolian though. But,
whatever happened to Pauline Collins? I mean,
hardly went on to do anything, didn't she?
I think she did okay after Doctor Who. But I think she's really good in this.
Yeah, it is.
I think we've spoken before about these contemporary ones, particularly where it feels like you're getting, I don't know, more relatable voices coming in. And, we're talking, what was it, 66 or 67, isn't it? Yeah, so this is, the height of, the Beatles in their pomp, really. And it's nice to have a Scouser in the programme.
Yeah, and so she's got some backstory. I mean, she's there because her brother's missing. And so she has a real reason for being there. She's got some backstory, some emotion. Had the show been smart, of course, she would have been reunited with her brother by the end, and he would have actually had some sort of emotional scene there. But this sort of just wraps up and gone, oh, it's over. The other good thing they did in terms of this show, which, poor Polly missed out on, Polly's this cowering thing at the beginning that has to be comforted by Jamie, is that her and the Wanda Ventham character end up having some amazing, powerful scenes and having a fight scene in the parking lot at the end. And, the women in this actually carry real purpose and, I'm forgetting the right word.
Agency.
You knew the word I was after. Well done. The women actually have agency in this, which is unusual for Doctor Who story. Not as unusual in this period. It gets more unusual a bit later on, sadly. But there is actually agency there.
And of course, Wanda Ventham would come back. Well, more than once.
She would. my favourite performance of hers is Thea Ransom in Image of the Fendal.
Oh yeah, that's a great.
But she's also there as Faroon in Time of the Rani, which is probably one of the ones better not talked about.
I was.
I think Ian might argue with.
Well, not too vociferously. It's not a classic, but for ushering in the McCoy era, I think it's worth watching. Once or twice, and of course her. I don't want to say husband because we don't know about Lacertian pair bonding rituals, but her sort of man piece in that was our friend Pickering again.
Yes, yeah.
Yep, who once again we've seen only recently in Keys of Marinus as Ison, and what a voice he has. And then of course he'd come back in Time of the Running too. Donald Pickering's got a stunning voice, hasn't he?
He's very well spoken and very plummy.
Yes, I was just about to use the P word. Very RP.
So he and Wanda are partners?
That explains it.
Yeah. Though I know she's also the mum of Benedict Cumberbatch, but that's to somebody different, I think.
Yes. Mr. Cumberbatch.
Mr. Cumberbatch, sir. He started off in Doctor Who. He started off in Doctor Who too, so he doesn't count. Bernard Kay. How many times? He's just been in Tyler from Invasion of the Dinosaurs and Saladin in The Crusade, which aside from the fact that he's blacked up, is an amazing role. And does.
Yes, he was great.
And then of course comebacks in Cold War and Colony in Space. And it's a big finish as well. One of the freakiest big finishes that they did, called Night Thoughts. Bernard Kay.
That's a great one. It is very creepy.
It is indeed.
So decent cast.
Hey, lest we forget Christopher Tranchell. Let's not go wading on before we've spoken about him. So I want to say he was in 2 other Doctor Who stories, possibly only one. Certainly he was Andred in Invasion of Time. He was
married Leela. He was...
him again?
Yeah, and he was Roger Colbert in the Massacre.
That's right.
The Massacre,
That's right, he was in 3.
Because we came to the conclusion in the Massacre that he must be some sort of vampire that just doesn't age, or he's got some sort of portrait in his attic that's keeping him from actually aging a day.
Because when you think everyone in the 70s looked at least 20 years older than they were, and he always radiated this kind of youthful, I'm just out of school kind of, atmosphere. But as we say, that was his third appearance in Doctor Who, and third time lucky because he got to marry Leela.
Yeah, that's a score, isn't it?
That's a result. He's like, do you want to come back for another one? No, I'm fine. I'll stick here, thank you.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any better than this.
The only other person noted in the cast was Gilly Fraser, who plays the hostess. And she's of note because she was Peter Purves' ex-wife. So just if you like connections, there's a little connection there between Peter Purves.
Connections! Ex-wife!
And a very beautiful thing she was too.
Sorry, that's just mine and Ian's little Peter Purves thing we like to do.
Forgive us.
It's been a while, hasn't it, Ian? I've missed it. Yeah.
Can I go on about Ian Chesterton again?
I was going to say, you want to talk about how much you hate Ian Chesterton?
No. Let's steer away from that particular conversation. I first experienced this one on audio with, it must have been the Fraser Hines one, because it's the soundtrack rather than the novelisation. And it was another one that I wasn't really that enamoured about, and it's possible, I'm just putting this out here there, that the reason why was because I was desperately going through all the missing stuff during the 50th anniversary, and I was probably quite keen to get to Evil of the Daleks, so maybe it didn't command my full attention on that first one, and I may have been doing it a slight disservice. And so I've revisited the audio again in preparation for this, and I rewatched the animation as well. And the animation is very good. It's got some nice technical bits with the spaceship and all that kind of stuff. But I find, as an experience, I think the audio, to me at least, works better.
Yeah, I think you're right. I always struggle with animation. And particularly with Patrick Troughton, who had such a elastic face that I think listening to him speak, you can actually see what he's doing in your head better than they can actually do in the animation.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing about losing all these missing episodes is the fact that Troughton's performance was always unique and different, and often his actions wouldn't correspond to the words. He's probably most like Matt Smith in that way. You were never quite sure what performance you were going to get out of the words. And I think Patrick, just to occupy himself, would often just do the most bizarre things because that's how he stayed on track. And you lose all that. So we really have no idea what kind of performance he's giving because we've lost so much with the episodes.
And I think another problem for this, in terms of animating it, is that about 98% of the story is people going into rooms and pointing guns at each other and having conversations and smoking pipes and walking out of the room again.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that leads to a particularly rich visual experience compared to something like, the Macra Terror or pretty much any of the other animated stories where there's something to get your teeth into. This one feels a bit lacking.
I mean, you'd think an airport would be an exciting location, and I think for live stuff it probably is, but in terms of sets,
Airport.
It is Gatwick. And let's face it, airports are boring places. Like, I mean, and really, as much as they made some clever sets, three-roomed large sets for the, but you've got a warehouse, well, who cares? A warehouse storeroom, who cares? A secret room, which is pretty drab. So I think, well, that's pretty exciting. And then you've got a control tower, and you've got a bench on a blank wall outside a kiosk.
Security bench.
And that's basically it. It's not too.
You've got a spaceship and a space station. That's about the only thing that really kind of lifts.
Well, the spaceship is a bit of an airplane seats. I mean, that's pretty not exciting. And even when you go into the cockpit, they've got two machines, which is supposed to be, oh wow, it's not a proper cockpit. Where are all the controls? That was just saving money. I think probably the satellite set would have been good, but we don't know. Yeah.
We don't know.
And so, all the sets you have are just moving pretty drab set to pretty drab set. As much as I do enjoy the show, and anything that Patrick Troughton is, I love, this is probably the weakest story in this season of Troughton's. And I'd probably, I know you guys bagged out the smugglers, but I suspect it's actually, I suspect it's possibly even slightly worse.
I think we kind of liked it.
Oh, did you?
I mean, Ian perhaps was not quite so enamoured.
I don't feel like it was a big bang to start your fourth season with, but, it was fine, I guess.
I think for me there was a considerable amount of benefit of the doubt in terms of that it would be saved by the location filming and just the general sort of bang for your buck on the screen, but of course we don't really get to see that.
I mean, in this story we got some tarmac runway and some stock footage of aeroplanes, so can we not extend the same benefit of the doubt to this story? Maybe this one.
Well, maybe we should. Maybe the space station is very much a precursor to the Ark in Space.
Yeah, I mean, just because the Gatwick Airport on screen was the world's emptiest and quietest airport doesn't mean that it was always that way. Just maybe in episodes 1 and 3. And the rest of the time it was a bustling, air travel hub.
Yeah. So how did you feel it sort of hung together as a story? Did you feel it worked, or what's your initial kind of reaction to it, having sat through
Well,
it
this is
now?
a Doctor Who story, so if you're going to start picking on it for its plot devices, you're going to be in trouble, aren't you?
Yeah.
It would have, I think, made for a much better four-parter, certainly.
Yeah, I think that's a fair thing to say, and I think that will come into play even more as we go into the 70s.
Yeah.
But that's we're not quite there.
Well,
It feels like kind of a cheaper story in a run of, they've done the rather incredible moon base and the macro tower, and perhaps this one
This does feel like a precursor to some of the Pertwee stuff, Earth based and multi episodes, and I could imagine this transferring quite easily into that whole kind of season 7 arc quite easily.
Yeah, it is also a bit of a precursor to the base under siege we're about to get lots of, even though the location's not very limited, the sets are. But you still have the intransient leader, the commandant. You have people not believing the Doctor, having to prove who they are. It's the same steps that most of the base under sieges will follow.
It's a worry because I found it. To quote Nathan, I found it rather tiresome at points, and as you say, this is only the beginning of those tropes, so that's going to be quite.
And you don't want to come all over Nathan, do you?
I'll take the 5th.
Yeah, I think you're right. It should have been a 4-parter, and you can tell that the new producers have come in and they sort of said we need to start saving money, and the reality is 6 parts save a lot of money because you get to recycle the same sets over and over again, and really this has been a season of 4-parters. From the Smugglers, Smugglers 10th Planet, Power of the Daleks is 6, but then everything since then has been 4-parters. So the Highlanders, the Moon Base, I've got them in the wrong order because it's the Underwater Menace, but even before that, the War Machines and etc. You've had a huge run of 4-parters, and at this point they come in and say, no, we have to save money, where everything's becoming 6-parters. And so this becomes a 6-parter, then Eve of the Daleks is 7, Tomb of the Cybermen slips in, but then you've got all those 6-parters for all the base under sieges. So it's all about saving money, which Doctor Who TV shows have to do in order to keep the run. But you do feel it does suffer, and it's actually that change. We know that they changed it because originally Ben and Polly the actors Annika and Michael Craze were contracted for 8 more episodes, 2 more shows, because they should have been in this whole show and the next whole show. But when they turned this to a 6-parter and the Evil to a 7-parter,
they've got a problem.
Suddenly their contracts ran out at the end of part 2 of Eve of the Daleks, and then the producers said, "Oh, we'll get rid of them here," which is just tragic. That the way they deal with companions in the 60s was not
it's a slight
kind.
improvement over what happened to Dodo, but not much.
No, they filmed something for the end as opposed to she just drops out in episode 2.
It is a little perfunctory
And the
again, isn't it? But But there wasn't that emotion in those days. The Doctor didn't deeply love and care for his companions. They just knocked about with him for a couple of years.
Yes.
So, what do you make of the chameleons as an adversary? Do you think that worked? Was it something you'd like to see come back in a sort of reimagined form, or is it a bit too generic to really leave any kind of lasting impression?
Well, I was contemplating the fact that nearly every single Doctor Who villain, monster, creature has managed to return in different forms, and the chameleons managed to get one book, which maybe says something about the quality of what they were. I mean, I was actually, because Big Finish does everything, for goodness sake, and Big Finish has never done a story featuring the chameleons, and it ends on a point in terms of what happened to them next, because it's such a rushed ending at the end in terms of, and I'm still not quite sure what happened at the end. To be honest, I meant to go back and watch it again. The Doctor says, "Stop killing people, be good." They go, "Okay, we'll go back to our own planet now." And you think there's a lot of material there you can actually go back and dig into, but nobody has. Not even Big Finish. And if Big Finish hasn't done a story, you've got to wonder why not.
Harsh but fair.
That's the clip for the trailer. Oh my god.
Don't get me in trouble. I love Big Finish.
I'll tag Nick Briggs in it as we put the trailer out. Yeah. So this is the first story added into the pantheon by Malcolm Hulke along with David Ellis. Malcolm Hulke is one of my favourites from the 70s, but I'm not sure this stands up quite to the same level as some of his real crackers that we had in later years.
Well, you've got to start somewhere, haven't you?
I'd blame David Ellis, obviously. Yeah.
We've got the Crotons coming up at a later date, and I think you could aim the same sort of criticisms at that, but we'll keep our powder dry on that one.
I mean, as you say, Malcolm Hulke goes on. It's hard actually to even see Malcolm Hulke's tropes in this, because they're just not really there. So it was a bit. So I was sort of searching for them, and I was even thinking, at least if he created the Autons later on. But even that was Robert Holmes, because the original precursor to this was supposed to be set inside a shopping centre, and the mannequins were coming to life and things. So even that didn't end up being him. I'm not sure. Is there environmental concerns with the planet being destroyed by radiation? Maybe there's some planet stuff in there, but it's very hard to see.
Yeah, his fingerprints are not exactly all over this. But maybe maybe he wasn't that sort of politically and environmentally minded at this point. Who knows? What's David Ellis gone on to do?
Nothing in Doctor Who at all.
Never heard of him.
Yeah. He has written other TV shows and other things at the time. But, we in Australia don't get all your programs that so the list of stuff that he'd done, it was nearly all meaningless to me, I'm afraid.
Well, if it wasn't worth exporting, it probably wasn't worth broadcasting. Did you get El Dorado?
No, but I was in England when it came out, and I watched the first episode and thought, my life's ended. It's so bad.
It's not the first time you brought up El Dorado. Are you thinking of starting
Do you
off
want to...
a Jesse Birdsall?
Yeah. I'll tell you a little fact about me you might not know. I watched every single episode of El Dorado.
Holy
or two of them.
guacamole.
It was for a bet. And I did win the bet, and that was worth doing. But
was it though?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It must have been a very big bet.
But yeah, it was. Actually, no. Let's not go down the El Dorado rabbit hole, because me being me, I will probably start another podcast about El Dorado quite soon.
I'm surprised Nathan Bottomley hasn't, to be fair.
Well, he probably hasn't seen it. I don't think it was well exported. As I say, the couple of episodes I saw, I was over there for, because all the hype it got in terms of this brand new show. And I just remember these characters sitting outside and the cold breath coming out of their lips, thinking, "This isn't filmed in Spain. What are they talking about?"
It made Neighbours look like Chekhov, didn't it? Really?
Yes. I don't know. We in Australia we haven't watched Neighbours for more than 20 years, and so the only reason why I knew Neighbours had ended was because I'm watching all my English friends tweeting about how sad they are and thinking, "Oh, is that still going? Is it?"
That was my
no
experience.
one in Australia
I
watches
got all
it.
these sort of news updates on, Sky News and what have you about Kylie and Jason are back, and these people are back, and this is happening, and this is how the final episode ended, and I got all emotional, and I thought, at some point in 1990 or 91, I took, and I was an idiot in those days, and even I took an executive decision not to watch it anymore. So, yeah.
Yeah, I stopped watching after Jason and Kylie left.
Well, it all went downhill after Mrs. Mangle left for me, personally. And when you've got the episode where Bouncer has that dream, and the whole thing is Bouncer's dream, I think, how can you top that? Really
that's classic. That sounds great, that one.
Anyway, we've gone off on a slight tangent there.
Yeah, but we've got more material, so let's stick with Neighbours and El Dorado because.
Well, talking about Malcolm Hulk, one of the things I will say about this, which I think is interesting, which would come back later, and I'm not sure it's been done before, is that Malcolm has taken the concern of the time, or taken something of the time, and made it fear-worthy. So that those youth packages, overseas trips, which do they still exist? Do people still do those? I've done 15 countries in 7 days.
Club
trips.
1830 used to be
I don't know,
thing, but I'm not sure it was necessarily the destination.
It wasn't about the travel, was it?
No.
No, it wasn't. But we used to have those trips advertised out here all the time, and come to Europe, as I said, come to Europe and do 15 countries in 7 days. And as far as I know, I've not seen anything like that advertised. But then COVID, what happens now anyway? But what Malcolm Hulk does, which is fascinating, is he takes something of the time and then twists it so that it becomes something that's actually scary. So he takes that whole, the overseas travel for young people, and then suddenly those people are being kidnapped. They're having their bodies taken over. A bit of body horror thrown in. And of course, it's going to become a staple of Doctor Who as we go on. Plastic daffodils, which were all the rage. Plastic flowers. They used to be popular. I remember that in the 70s. But they become tools for the Ortons until the Ortons. The Bells of St. John have Wi-Fi being the enemy. So Town Strategy had GPS becoming, GPS is going to control you. Bluetooth in the Rise of Cybermen. And so Doctor Who would later take the familiar. And I think this is the first time it's ever been done. And it's not going to be done again for quite a while.
Sorry, I'm just amazed.
I'm just
fascinating.
You've
really hit on a really good point.
Yeah, you do your whole history of Doctor Who stories.
Spear.
Yeah, just, talk amongst yourselves.
Some torrent experiment. Mordrin undead.
Time and the Rani.
Silver Nemesis. The Unquiet Dead.
Dimensions in time.
The Lodger.
Anyway.
James Corden. He was something scary that became... No, hang on.
Well, yeah, that's true. True. Let's hope he comes back for the 60th.
Let's indeed. Let's hope that fervently. So I have a question. So we've got the setting of an airport when this was when that kind of package holiday travel was kind of taking off, I imagine.
See what you did there, taking off. Yeah.
We have teenagers being the kind of, I suppose, main victims of what's occurring. And we have a lot of scenes set in rather drab warehouses and offices with men smoking pipes, and they're all very middle-aged and white. And I just wonder, if you were an 8-year-old watching this story at the time, would you have been bored senseless by it?
I'm not sure 8-year-olds would have been, but I think 12-year-olds may have been.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
There isn't really a lot of action in the whole thing. I mean, the biggest action that happens is obviously in the car park in part 4. And we don't see that. And I think that the disadvantage of having this magic, gun that just freezes people, is that there's just no action to it, and no one puts up a fight anywhere. So Polly gets grabbed and pulled aside, and she's gone.
There's that scene where Troughton and Jamie and Sam are laid out on the floor and they can't move, and the laser beam is gradually moving towards them.
James Bond scene.
No, Mr. Who.
Cheap
I
James
expect
Bond
you to
scene.
It wasn't the most exciting, really, sadly.
Do they get out of it the same way James Bond does too? Does he use a mirror for that? How does he get out of
James
that one?
Bond's got a makeup mirror, hasn't he, in his handbag? He just whips it out and job's a good one.
I was going to say, it's exactly the same scene.
Yeah.
Reproduced. Well, except not done quite so
Budget might
well.
have been slightly lower on Doctor Who, possibly.
Yeah, and the fact that no one's there stays there and watches them. And how's one laser beam going to cut 3 of them up when it's coming? Anyhow, let's not get into the plot, or we're going to get disappointed. Like, what are they even doing? They don't. No, let's not get into that. Yeah, I think it does suffer from the fact that there's most episodes need to have a climax somewhere, and most of these episodes aren't. Even the cliffhangers aren't huge.
I mean, I
huge.
was really impressed at the sheer volume of people who just really couldn't be bothered to wait until they got to their destination to write out a postcard, so they just wrote one out at Gatwick Airport to send off.
Yeah.
That seemed a bit odd to me. A bit of a stretch. Maybe I'm just being a bit cynical and miserable.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, if it all taken place within a couple of weeks and they're doing all this kidnapping in a very short period of time, you wouldn't even need postcards. Because, I mean, let's face it, most young people aren't going to contact their parents anyhow, are they, when they get back? Not for a couple of weeks. So you could have got away with it a bit longer that way. I mean, I don't think it would have been hard to fix up some of the plot holes, but as I said, it's Doctor Who. Let's not look at the plot holes too deeply, because we'd start being very disappointed with a lot of shows if we did
I
that.
suppose if it was being made today, they'd probably have a purpose-built green screen area where the kids can pretend they're, jumping in a fountain in Rome or something to send back to the parents.
Yeah, but why would they?
Exactly.
It's a bit like, I can kind of understand. I can understand they're saying in terms of, listen, you don't really bother when you get there, write to your parents, quickly just sign this now, and maybe that they would do that, but it needed to be slightly better emphasised.
Ian, I'm getting the impression you weren't a huge fan of this one.
I was not. No, I'm gonna. Obviously, I've not yet experienced Evil of the Daleks, or have I? But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this is the kind of clunker of Series 4.
Can you think of any sort of positive things that you can really take out of this? So I don't want this to be a Debbie Downer episode.
No, okay.
Especially as Phillips got up at the crack of dawn to chat to us.
Positives. No.
I think Pauline Collins is great.
Oh yeah, no,
and I think she would have been a brilliant.
She
companion.
was. Am I going crazy? Or in the Macra Terror, did Polly have a very short haircut?
Yeah, I was.
And in this story,
that.
it was suddenly, I'd say a good 4 years growth. Not being an expert,
Yeah.
but
Maybe she had a weave or a wig or something.
There's a good 30 years of Big Finish stories between the Macro Terror and this one. That's why. It's had time to grow.
All makes sense now. Thanks, Philip.
Yeah, that's the reason why. All those Big Finish stories all fit between those two stories.
the Polly's hair box set. Yes. I mean, as we've said, it had an amazing cast, and they all did a very good job. But there was no one in it who was, bad or not trying. I just think that the sum of all the excellent parts was sort of quite boring.
I do think, had it been cut down to a 4-episode show, I think it would have carried well. Yeah, the reveal halfway through rather than 3/4 of the way through of the spaceship and all those things would have moved the pace. I do suspect that it is a stunning cast, and it's probably the best cast of the season. And I suspect that that's why it carries better than it would have done otherwise. If there'd been because I don't think there's a single dud actor in it, to be honest. Had there been a single dud performance, then it really would have been very hard to talk about. I love the show. I love the comedians. I think the makeup for the comedians is fantastic. Anything Patrick does, I just adore. But I do think this is probably the weakest of the season. But every season has to have a weak one in there somewhere.
Yeah, and even weak Doctor Who is better than most other shows, isn't it?
Oh yeah, and I'd love to see the rest of it and to be able to compare with what's going on. I think if we had episode 6 in particular, I think that would to actually be able to see Fraser Hines playing a different role
Yeah.
Without his accent. Well, we know he has his accent for that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's just choice that I've made. I think, which is I think what they did to Ben and Polly, that doesn't sit well with me because all companions deserve to be treated better. They deserve their hero moments, and both of them get a bit of a shoddy ending. And once again, well, why does Polly think she's somebody else, and why would she pretend to be Polly to the Doctor? Like, that would have been much more interesting in terms of she's saying she's Polly, and the Doctor going, "No, you're not," and but she's pretending to be someone from Zurich. Like, why? It makes no sense.
Maybe she'd just come down the Eiger.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe I completely missed the point here, but I assumed that was the duplicate, and that the real Polly was tucked away somewhere in a packing case.
Well, it was the duplicate, but every other duplicate takes on the role of the person they've replaced.
Yeah.
And so Meadows becomes...
She's this Swiss person who has a distinguished English accent. And they get around it by going, oh, yeah, well, I had a... whatever it was, a...
English governess.
English governess, yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, and I just think she deserved to be treated better than that. As I said, every other comedian actually took on, they actually learnt, they tested them. Can you remember your past? Can you remember where you came from? All those, they've got all the memories embedded with them. And for Polly, they do it and then they don't bother to embed those memories. And so it's just, why is she pretending to be someone different? Like, I didn't, even for the plot sense, internal sense, that's a bit strange. And then once again, so the last episode we actually see Polly in, she's not even Polly. She's someone who's been taken over. I mean, they do at least get a lovely scene at the end, and I do think that scene filmed, which once again we don't have, but we've got the audio of, is actually quite a nice farewell scene.
Yeah.
But considering the entire plot has been driven by Where Are Ben and Polly for 4 episodes, to actually not actually see them properly rescued, just they're already waiting for you on board the ship, and we better go find them. Sort of lets down a few things.
Especially when you've got this, like you said, the longer episode arc of the story, you could have lost some of the padding and just included a bit more of their farewell.
Yep.
But there you go. It's easy to criticise, isn't it, when we don't have a clue about writing? Well, I don't.
For yourself.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to bring up?
Well, I was going to mention the fact that, I mean, you would have already mentioned in the previous show that I haven't heard yet, that, of course, it's a new title sequence for the Doctor with the Doctor's face.
It last time, but I remember thinking as I was watching the animation, I thought, hang on a minute, we haven't, so that's another change.
Yeah, so the title sequence changed for the Macra Terror, and then for this show in episode 2, they changed the music.
Yes, I did notice
that. The music's been reworked to actually fit the titles.
Yes.
So now there's the right swelling at the right time.
Yeah.
So and that's version of the themes we're not going to have until the last season of Tom Baker. Really, they've got rid of the original Dealer Libby show. So this is now the theme really that we know and love. Well, assuming. So maybe I'm old.
I think they still tweaked it, as time went on and as they changed up each intro sequence, and I think it was kind of a death by 1,000 cuts for Delia Derbyshire because she hated having to change the original at all because she felt it was so perfect when she finished it. So, but yeah, I like this version. I don't know. There's something a bit more magical about it, and the visuals are very of its time. It's especially with the animation, because they've colorized it, so it's gone super psychedelic with the crazy colors as well.
Yep, yeah, indeed.
You could imagine that playing in the background at the UFO Club with Pink Floyd standing in front of it, and it wouldn't look out of place.
No.
Right, well, we better give it a score then. Let's go to Ian first. Ian, what are you going to give this one out of 10?
You come to me. I haven't made my mind up yet. Let me just have a little think.
Ian.
So really well acted, quite a dull story, preposterously empty airport. It dragged. It didn't end well. I can't see my way clear to giving this any higher than a 5. Okay,
so middling. Not terrible.
Not terrible, but not good.
Not great. Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. Philip, what are you going to give this one?
Oh, it's so hard to know what to give, and heck, I've been looking forward to coming here and talking about Patrick Troughton for so long. You have to give me this story because most of these stories.
You made it quite clear that you are a big fan of Patrick Troughton, so we're not going to hold your rating of this one tiny little sliver of his entire oeuvre against him. So it's fine. You rate it however you like.
Good. I think it almost does all it's meant to do.
Yeah.
I think the acting is fantastic. I think the sets were actually quite clever. The fact that they had all these interlocking sets, that's actually quite unusual for Doctor Who, that they actually built set into set into set. Mm-hmm. I think they're a bit drab, but that's sort of the location. Yeah. So not that thing's lacking. And as I said, it nearly does everything it's meant to do, and it's also Ben and Polly's last episode, and I think we need to respect that. So it hurts me. I'm only going to give it a 6.5.
Okay.
Out of 10.
Okay, no, I think that's fair. Yeah, it's really sad to see Ben and Polly go. I really do like them as companions, and it feels like the end of another kind of era of the show. So I'm going to give this one a 6.
Good, that sounds fair.
Yeah. So let's hear what you guys have to say about the Faceless Ones.
I've got mail.
All right, so let's have a look at your feedback. And first up from me, we have Simon Moore on Twitter. Just in case you haven't checked it out, Simon is actually a podcaster himself, and he does a really, really interesting classical music podcast. He's based down in Australia, like yourself, Philip.
He's indeed. I know Simon.
Yeah, really nice guy. And Simon says, I love the contemporary flavour, a rarity in 60s stories. And the story concept is a great one. Pauline Collins, how sad we didn't have a proper run for you. The performance is spot on. I love the camp evil of Donald Pickering, and of course Bernard Kay is great too. Such a shame we don't have it all. The story style really feels ahead of its time. There are some chilling moments from the episodes we have, as well as loads of fun. And we've also heard from John Rivers. And John says, accurately captures the mundanity of being trapped at Gatwick Airport for 2.5 hours. He's obviously a big fan. Thank you, John. And next up, we have some audio from the legend himself, Mr. Andy Moore.
Go on, do it. Do it.
I am doing it, David. Calm down, will you?
Is it ringing?
Yes, it's ringing. Now keep stum, will ya?
I bet you a £5. He says, what can I do you for?
Hello, Terry Nation speaking. That's Terry Nation, creator of the Daleks. Me, nobody else, just me.
Hello, Terry. It's Mac Hulk. How you doing?
Hello there, Malcolm. What can I do you for?
Well, the thing is, I'm writing this Who with David Ellis, and we got a bit stuck naming the alien race. So, for inspiration, we went back to have a look at some of your scripts, because, you are the master of naming things. I mean, Iridius for a desert planet, Marinus, genius, mate. So what we thought was, why don't we go straight to you and see whether you can help us out?
Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you tell me what your alien race is all about?
Well, keep it simple, mate. They're a race of shapeshifters that can take on people's identities.
Oh, shapeshifters, is it? It's coming to me. It's coming to me. Chameleons!
Oh, well, that is just... you are the master. Thanks, mate. I'll get back to it.
Oh, I'm always happy to help. Just stick the check in the post, eh? TTFN.
What did he say?
You're never going to believe it, mate. Chameleons.
Chameleons?
I know, right? He's never known him not on the nose, our old Terry, is he? Chameleons.
Chameleons. Chameleons.
No, I know. Chameleons.
Yeah, chameleons.
Still.
Yeah, still.
Fuck it, chameleons it is.
Yep.
Thank you, Andy. Another classic from yourself. Cheers for that. Ian, who have you heard from?
Yes, right, okay. I've heard from Metabolist 2, or Metabolist 2, depending on how we're pronouncing it.
Another fantastic podcast.
Absolutely. Focusing on just one aspect of the story, which is the departure of Polly and Ben. This was a great improvement over the previous companion departure, Dodo, where the Doctor was told she sends her love, but Polly and Ben were underused in this story and thus underappreciated. They're being written out of the show as the episodes unfold. Yes, they get to say goodbye, but it should have been so much more for the duo that bridged the renewal from Hartnell to Troughton. Lastly, the Doctor's parting words: "Off you go. Now go on. Ben can catch this ship and become an admiral, and you, Polly, you can look after Ben." Sure haven't aged well. I hope someday we'll see more of their actual episodes. Goodbye, Michael and Annika. You were fantastic. So that's nice.
And they were.
They were. I've also heard from Davy Paul, who says, "An excellent contemporary story and a good exit for Ben and Polly. I remember when it was first shown, and the CD with Annika doing the bridging narrative is one of my favourites. The reconstruction animation is also superb, lots of Easter eggs. Great performances from the main cast. I would have liked Pauline Collins to have stayed on as a companion, Samantha with Jamie." Just to interrupt, I think Jamie would have enjoyed that as well.
Yes, I think he would.
A chilling story with some police procedural, horror and sci-fi elements. Nice sympathetic redemption for the villains and good comedy moments. 4 stars out of 5. So that's 8 out of 10.
Yeah, they're a fan.
Yeah.
And Philip, who have you heard from?
I've heard from DJ Alpha T, who says, "Somewhat overlooked and probably a great story if we could only see it. Very groovy, swinging 60s with its futurism, jet-setting airport locations. Like Enemy of the World, I think this would be very favourably reevaluated if it were found." Which, yeah, let's face it, Enemy of the World did improve by so much when we saw it. So,
And DJ Alpha T was a guest on Ian's show recently, as we record this.
He was on the All-Consuming Fire episode of We're All Stories in the End, which is available now
great.
from the podcatcher. he was good, yeah.
All right, stop plugging now.
Okay, and from MTSM. "For all I know, this could be the greatest story ever." It seems to be a common theme, doesn't it? We think it would be better if we could see it. Yeah. I hope it would be. Anyhow, "For all I know, this could be the greatest story ever. They dodoed Ben and Polly, though, so I have never been able to enjoy it. The plot doesn't make sense, and the whole thing feels less fun than many other Second Doctor stories. My least enjoyable Troughton outside of Season 6. I thought they were giving a score there for a second. So yeah, fairly similar themes there. I think all of us hope that if we could see the whole thing, it would rise. So everyone is realising it needs a bit of rising.
Thanks very much for all your feedback, and if you want to get in touch, all the different ways and means are listed over our end credits. Before we wrap things up, we are going to do our recommendations.
Oh, lovely!
And let's change it up a bit. Let's come to Ian first. What would you like to recommend for our listeners before we go?
Well, so I've recently been informed that I live in the same town that Father John Misty comes from. And because Lana Del Rey, who I love, covered one of his more recent songs, I've been listening to Father John Misty's most recent album, which, oh God, what's it called? I think it's called Chloe in the End of something. Let me just pull it up. This is the level of research I haven't done.
Yes.
The album is called Chloe and the Next 20th Century. It's a lovely record. The best thing on it is obviously Buddy's Rendezvous, and the best version of that is the one Lana Del Rey's just covered. But very good album, well worth a listen.
Okay. Very nice. And Philip, what have you got for our listeners?
Well, as you know, I've got a bit of a Big Finish and audio listing thing, so I'm going to recommend an audio to you from Big Finish.
Okay.
It's from the series called The Early Adventures, which are all dealing with the companions of the earlier Doctors, and this is called The Night Witches. Ooh. So it's starring Annika Wills and Fraser Hines, playing both Jamie and the Doctor, and also they recast Ben Jackson in this by an actor called Elliot Chapman, who does an amazing job. Cool. And The Night Witches, it's It's while Polly's hair is growing back after she's had it all cut off in the Macra Terror. And it's set in Russia.
Throughout the story. Oh, your hair's getting a bit longer now.
No, they don't need to mention it because you can just, you just know what's happening.
Just visualise.
And the Night Witches were a group of flying women from Russia who were attacking the Germans. And so it's fair. Well, it's not really contemporary anymore, is it? But anyhow, it's set during that sort of period of World War II, and just in terms of it's a true historical event. But it's how the Doctor and companions get caught up in that, and Polly gets to play both Polly. Sorry, and Annika gets to play Polly, but there's also one of those Doctor Who tropes of there's someone that when they see her, she looks just like someone else they all know.
Goodness me.
And so she gets to play a double part in it as well,
that's cool.
which also reduces the need to hire an extra actress.
Well, yeah, there is that.
But but audio story, Doctor Who, The Night Witches from Big Finish, it's great.
Yeah, that sounds really good. Thank you for that.
What are you recommending?
I am just going to be plugging the hell out of the competition, really, which is probably going to upset Ian, but what the hell. There is a little group of Doctor Who podcasts who all get together on YouTube, and I think it's probably well beyond time that I should be giving them a little plug, because they've been so kind to invite me and Ian along, but Ian's always very busy with stuff to join in. So there's Liam and Rob from the Cloister Bell podcast, the Geordie lads, and there's Harry and Luke from Who Can Convince You. It's a great podcast. And also Shona and Kazi from My Adventure in Space and Time. And Matt and David from Neither the Time Nor the Space. And I'll put links in the show notes to all of our recommendations. But if you love Doctor Who, well, I suppose you would if you were going to listen to this. They're all great shows and they really deserve a listen. So I thought I'd give them a little shout out because they've been very kind and they've been plugging our show quite a lot, so I thought it'd be nice to return the favour.
Oh, bless you and bless them.
Yes.
They
Bless
make
us,
some
everyone.
fine podcasts.
They do. And speaking of plugs and wonderful Doctor Who podcast, Philip, I think it's well overdue that you should give a little plug to your podcast.
Okay, I'm happy to do that. So my podcast is called The Sirens of Audio. So Dwayne, Bunny, and I have been doing this now for over 2 years, 2.5 years. So it's a podcast that focuses on Doctor Who mainly in the audio medium, though we do also look at other things as well.
Yeah.
I guess our primary focus, because most of the audio that's coming out is from Big Finish, but we do also pay tribute and review and respond to other pieces of audio as well by other producers. We have different formats. We interview a lot of people, and so we've interviewed a lot of the
very
original
star-studded
cast.
list, isn't it?
It's not bad. So we've had Colin Baker, and there's more news to come there. I mean, in terms of Doctor Tim Trelaw, if he counts as a doctor. But we've managed to have Peter Purvis and Maureen O'Brien doing her first ever podcast. Louise Jamison, Janet Fielding, Bonnie Langford.
You old name dropper, you.
Katie Manning. And some new episodes coming up with some other big names coming up too as well. Plus lots of directors, writers. So every episode, I guess we follow a similar format. But if you're into writing, we've got lots of writers who give lots of tips about how to write along the way. We talk to sound designers. We've talked to musicians and composers. From the original show, from classic Doctor Who, from modern Doctor Who. Plus we rate, review, and respond to other audio as well. So if you're into a bit of audio and also other stuff, come and have a listen.
And you can be found at sirensofaudio.com.
thesirensofaudio.com.
And I shall put
do you know what? I have no idea now you've said that.
Well, let's just say that's what it is. Dwayne will be going, "You idiot, you should."
I'm going to say I'm in so much trouble now, but I did get the in, because I always get in trouble because I just call it Sirens of Audio. It's the Sirens of Audio.
It turns out Sirens of Audio is a very different website, but each to their own.
Yeah, sorry, Dwayne, I got it wrong. You would have thought I would have looked that up, wouldn't you? But no, not me.
Philip, thank you so much for coming on and being a guest. It's been really fun.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Lovely. Right, well, what are we going to do next, Ian? I suppose we better chase after that lorry that's just driven down the road.
Yeah, we better find the TARDIS, I suppose.
Yeah. Maybe we could pop around an antique shop or something and wait, or maybe just pop to the cafe for
Yeah, we could do that.
a few minutes and have some
bacon sandwich.
Oh yeah, and some coffee and
lovely.
some groovy 60s music.
That would be fantastic.
Well, until next time, I was Mark.
I was Ian.
I was Philip.
If you'd like to get in touch, you can email us at mailbagofrassilon@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter @TimeEndSpacePod, and you can also find us on Facebook. If you want to leave some audio feedback, there is a link in the show notes. You can use your phone or your computer and leave up to 60 seconds of feedback, or if you're listening via the Anchor website, you can click on the message button and leave your audio. We'd love to hear from you. And thank you to Momo Tempo for providing our theme music.